Welcome everyone to this webinar on what's ahead for the Water Infrastructure Solutions portfolio. I have with me our desktop product team here at Autodesk, and we're going to go through some of the latest innovations and what's to come for our portfolio in the coming months. With that said, we do need to make a safe harbor statement at the beginning of this webinar. We will be detailing some features that have not been released in the software yet. You can, of course, always go to our public-facing roadmap to view some features in development, but please don't make any purchasing or buying decisions based on what you hear in this webinar. So with that said, here is who I have with me today. Again, all of our desktop product team here at Autodesk, and you'll be hearing from each of them here in a second. So what we're going to cover, we'll start off with some strategy and direction for our portfolio of water solutions here at Autodesk, and then we'll dive into some more innovations in the stormwater and wastewater side of the industry, as well as the water distribution industry as well. So with that covered, I want to give a brief background on our roadmap and our portfolio. We have a diverse suite of solutions across the entire water infrastructure industry, from planning to designing to building to operating and maintaining across a variety of different structures and water modeling needs. And with that, we're continually rolling out new solutions and new features and bringing back solutions that we've heard from customers that they continue to need. So you'll see XP Swim, Info Asset Manager, our solutions we just brought back this year to serve the growing needs of the market there. But we also have solutions like InfoWorks ICM, which you'll hear more about today, and Info Drainage, InfoWater Pro, InfoWorks WS Pro. I do want to mention one thing here of the dotted lines that you'll see in Stormwater and sanitary sewer of the coming FY26. Autodesk is in FY26, and you'll if you're watching this in May, you haven't seen this release yet, but if you're watching this in June or later of 2025, you've likely already seen this release, and we'll talk a little bit about what that's going to look like. So there are new versions of InfoWorks ICM coming this year, and to detail some of that a little bit more, I'll toss it over to Luis.
Thanks, Trevor. Thanks very much. So as Trevor's just mentioned, I'm going to be giving a brief overview of the changes that will be coming on June 9th for InfoWorks ICM. So these changes are being made to more closely align the InfoWorks ICM offerings to water industry needs and the needs of opening our offerings to a wider user base. So what we're looking to do is provide specific offerings for each subset of our storm, sewer and flood markets. And we're providing customers and prospective customers greater flexibility. So you can choose the feature sets that suit your needs and the work that you do. So you're able to be more specific about what you want to use our products for. So as it says on this slide here, InfoWorks ICM Standard will soon be rebranding to InfoWorks ICM Sewer. So the features and capabilities of InfoWorks ICM Sewer will be identical to the current InfoWorks ICM offering. And you can just see that detailed there on the slide and the table. But in addition to this, we'll be releasing a new offering called InfoWorks ICM Flood. And InfoWorks ICM Flood has several capabilities that are listed in that table on the slide. But in general, what we can summarize this as having limited nodes for 1D and integrated 1D, 2D modeling with unlimited mesh for flood analysis. And in addition to this, ICM Flood will have the ability to run flood risk analysis, a feature which ICM Sewer will not have. So if you want some more specifics around what that looks like, we have this table which is summarizing the capabilities of ICM Sewer and ICM Flood. So it's fairly clear and it's easy to read. But I want to pull out some key features that is going to be particularly important for ICM Flood users. So key features within the products that we see are going to be really helpful for these types of users are subgrid sampling, which we should be discussing later on in this presentation, and also 2D mesh element histograms and risk analysis runs. I'd just like to make it quite clear that the functionality of InfoWorks ICM Sewer and ICM Flood are serving a really specific type of user. So if you bought, for example, ICM Sewer and ICM Flood, that doesn't give you the capability of ICM Ultimate. That's a completely separate product. We're not making any changes to it. It's still going to be as you see it now, albeit with new features that will be released later in the year. So that's all my summary for ICM Flood and ICM Sewer. And I guess I'll pass on to the next speaker.
We'll go over to Javier to present on the drainage design portfolio.
Yeah, thanks, Trevor. So drainage design, let's kick things off with a big one, and that is the Civil 3D interoperability. So this is one of those things that sounds technical on the surface, but really is about your overall experience as a user and your expectations when you open InfoDrainage and then you open Civil 3D. So when that happens, when you're working across those two tools, whether you're moving from one side to the other or InfoDrainage to Civil 3D, you need to know that your data isn't being lost or somehow made simpler or misinterpreted along the way. So historically, and we received lots of feedback from our users. Round tripping has meant frustration, has meant things not working, not as intended, but not as expected, let's say. So maybe the inlets didn't match when you round tripped your model, your InfoDrainage model to Civil 3D and back. Maybe your styles vanished or changed, or maybe you had to create part families that you recreated in InfoDrainage, you sent to Civil 3D, and then when you sent them back to InfoDrainage, they were completely gone. So that's not only frustrating from a user's perspective, we know that. That also takes a long time to recreate or to double handle all that work. So basically the aim, or what we've aimed for these recent releases, particularly 2026.1, is to reduce that data loss between the platforms, not just like a quick fix and say, yeah, we're done with the round tripping experience. It is a focused, ongoing effort, as I'm saying in the second bullet point. It's something that you're seeing in this slide, and most likely you will see it next year if we do the future webinars in 2026, you'll definitely see this one again. So beyond the technical side, we can go into details. The goal is simple. It just saves you time and reduces double handling, making collaborations across teams or even from the same individual more like a seamless experience, basically. So that takes me to the second thing I wanted to highlight, the auto profiling. We released this feature just now in 2026.1, which I think is one of the most exciting tools that we've introduced recently in InfoDrainage. So as you can see in the video, there are several ways. If you're an InfoDrainage user, there are several ways we can create flow paths in InfoDrainage. We can go to the ribbon and select those two nodes, and we get that flow path created. We can right-click in the background in the black area, for instance, and create a flow path from there. Again, selecting start node and end node, and it will create a flow path. So flow paths are things that we use on a regular basis in InfoDrainage. We create profiles. We can filter results, or we can use them for the network design wizard to optimize our network. So it's a really good tool. Creating flow paths is a really good tool, but it's a time-consuming effort, particularly for larger models. This one is not that big, but in larger models, it can take a long time. So now we're basically allowing the user to create all the flow paths to cover the entire network from either a specific node or from all outflows at once. By clicking just once in one single button, you will create all flow paths to cover your entire network, as you can see in the preview right now. So the thing is, we're not done. This is just the first step of what we have in our mind for auto profiling. Auto profiling part 2 is coming soon, hopefully, with brand new features like customized naming, customized filtering, not only in the tree view, but in other areas where we like using our flow paths, whether that is the profile views, the results, or the network design wizard, as I mentioned earlier. So you have basically even more flexibility and power at your fingertips, basically. So a bit more on that in a bit when we go into the what's next. But I just wanted to highlight you what we just introduced. We believe that this will be an extremely time-saving and extremely efficient tool for your time-saving and reducing manual efforts, and particularly repetitive work, which we know that is quite frustrating. So that takes me to the next slide on the what's coming, what's in our radar, what's in our roadmap. So let me give you a glimpse of what's coming next. So one of the first things, first bullet point we're adding is a richer set of attributes for pipes. So this includes wall thickness, pulled directly from your Civil 3D part families if you're using those in info drainage, as well as strength-related details like width, depth, bedding material, and backfill type. So while it might be like a behind-the-scenes update, this opens the door to part 3 of additional attributes, we're going to call it, just in a simple way. But the final aim or the ultimate goal is to enable detailed cross-sections outputs, detailed or enhanced class detection accuracy, and basically provide the user a more accurate and more complete picture of what's actually being built, or what is actually being designed and will be ultimately built. Second bullet point, that's another feature that's coming soon, hopefully again. And one we know that you've been asking for it. It's one of the top voted features in the feedback portal, which I always encourage people to use, because we definitely have a look at that, and we definitely want to hear your thoughts on what's missing, what we could improve on, or things that you would expect as a user to have in InfoDrainage. So this is basically about exposing or providing further information on your swales. In this case, the maximum velocity. So this gives you more control when checking design performance, especially when working with SaaS and green infrastructure. So it's a small feature, but basically we believe that it will have a big impact, not only in compliance, but also for you as a designer to assess whether or not, for instance, you need to provide some erosion control features within the swale, or if it's fine to leave it as is. As you can see, and I mentioned this one earlier, the third bullet point is auto profiling part 2. That's in the works already, and will be coming in the near future. We're talking about naming rules. We're talking about filtering by component type or filtering or flow path name, to give you more flexibility and basically to play around with flow paths across the entire platform in a much easier way. And finally, again, that was somewhat covered in the first slide, but we are definitely continuing to deepen our Civil 3D capabilities. The goal is long-term aligned with what you've probably heard about, the Civil 3D integrated drainage design. So we want those two tools, Civil 3D and InfoDrainage, to feel like extensions of each other. And that's exactly where this enhancements to the Civil 3D capabilities are coming in. So basically, this new experience is all about bringing the power of InfoDrainage directly into Civil 3D and the other way around. So you can access more advanced drainage design, more advanced analysis and compliance tools, regardless of which environment you're working on, whether that is Civil 3D or InfoDrainage. So the speed and power of Civil 3D combined with the drainage analysis capabilities of InfoDrainage. And that takes me to the end of the presentation and the what's coming features. There are more things coming in InfoDrainage. These are probably the more important ones, but there's definitely more exciting things coming in the near future. So Trevor, back to you.
All right, thank you, Javier. For now, we're going to hand it over to Samer to discuss stormwater and wastewater, specifically innovations in InfoWorks ICM.
Thank you, Trevor. Hello, everyone. Lovely to see you all here today. When we talk to our users about their challenges and about what they want to see in the software, we hear different things. Each one of you has different needs and has different challenges and is working in a different environment. But the one thing that holds true among all users is that everyone wants to run faster models. And this is why we worked and we've introduced recently the subgrid sampling. We all know that if you want to have accurate 2D results, you need to have 2D mesh that is very fine to capture the topographic changes in your model. And that comes with a penalty, which is the computational effort penalty. And if you want to have a bigger mesh, you'll end up misrepresenting your topographic area. And then if you have a topographic barrier, or if you have a 2D channel, you'll end up losing the details in that topography if you have a really big mesh. With subgrid, you are able now to have a ridiculous big mesh with fine subgrid to capture the changes in topography, and your model will be lighter, and it will have less digital footprint, and it will run faster. Let's see in this video the experiment that we've done after releasing this feature. And basically, if you see, we have a fine mesh, and using traditional meshing, we're coarsening the mesh from 1 meter square all the way to 512 meters square. Every time you coarsen the mesh, there is some sort of a misrepresentation, and at some point the model will not behave in an accurate way. How are we going to test this? We're going to introduce a triangular hydrograph, and in the channel, as soon as we flood, we know that we're not accurate. The 1 meter square worked, the 2 meter square worked, happy days. 4 meter square worked. 8 meter square started to be noisy a little bit, if you can see the edges, and now we started to flood, which we're not supposed to flood in here. And then the model went crazy because now we don't have any good representation of the 2D channel. So we now are going to use subgrid sampling, and we want to model a big mesh, 512 meters square, with 1 meter square subgrid. So all you need to do is to take the subgrid sampling, put 1 meter square, and then once you run these simulations that failed in the traditional meshing, you will see that it passed with speed improvement. So the 30 meters square passed, the 64 passed with 40x speed improvement, 128 passed with 50 something speed improvement, and now the 512 meters square passed with 65x speed improvement. This is gonna help users navigate their large models, but at the same time, they don't end up misrepresenting the topography as they do the 2D simulations. But at the end of the day, this is a tool that comes with limitations, and we're introducing now a list of supported elements. So check the help, see what is supported for now, and make sure that you understand the limitations of this tool, because this is a tool, we're giving you a hammer basically, and it's a tool that's going to benefit you at home, but this hammer cannot be used everywhere. You still need a screwdriver. Still, sometimes traditional meshing could be more accurate in certain cases, but this is going to help you in a lot of use cases, which we've explained in hand. And now the other recent improvement that we've introduced to our cloud databases is the reporting on simulation progress. Lots of you voted for a new improvement to our cloud databases reporting within model.info360.com is to, when you trigger a simulation in ICM, and this is a cloud simulation, you want to follow the simulation progress from the web-based platform rather than having to open the software and see where you are with the simulation progress. So now we're lifting the simulation progress data from the job control window, and we're feeding it to the web platform, so you can see that the elapsed time is this, and the duration is this. This is why we can, the simulation progress is this. And basically, this is to respond to a popular demand from our users. So thanks to all who voted and to those who suggested this improvement. Another one that was also a result of your user demand on our user voice platforms is the reporting on the quota usage. So, you know, we're in a temporary period when we give our users a monthly quota that runs out at the end of each month, and then they get a renewed quota. And users have been asking for a report on the percentage of quota used. And this is now available in model.info360.com. You could see when you run simulation, you could see what sort of percentage quota that you've used. And the next tool and improvement that we've introduced, or we are in the process of introducing, and it's going to be at some point in the future, in a future release, is Ruby script in a database, or Ruby script as a database object. how many times have you told your colleagues that, okay, you need now to get this model and run these scripts, and basically this script will create scenarios and will do this and that. And then your colleague said, oh, but hold on a second, where are the scripts? And you say, oh, I need to send you the file because they live outside of your database. And now with this improvement, we have the Ruby scripts living within your database as an object in the database, and we give you the experience of a drag and drop, and it's the exact similar experience as SQLs. So when you are collaborating with your colleagues, maybe someone is doing the scripting, another one is running the scripts and creating the scenarios, and another one is generating the flood maps. You all have access to the same set of scripts. You don't need to share them as external files living outside of ICM. So this is still in progress, but you're going to see it in a future release of the software. Okay, so this is a glimpse of some recent improvements that we've introduced or we're working on in ICM. So what's in the oven? Currently, we're working on subgrid sampling improvements. As I mentioned, we have a list of supported elements that can be supported within subgrid. We're increasing this list and we're adding more supported elements. And we're also working on some ways to address the limitations of subgrid. Also, we're, as Luis mentioned, we have now a 2D focus offering. We're also working on introducing a design logic in ICM. So basically, those who work on designing big cities from scratch, especially in the Middle East and Africa, they can use ICM to make decisions on the pipe diameters and the pipe slopes. We're working on a finite volume solver for our rivers. You know that our rivers, we use finite difference in our mesh. We 2D mesh, we use the finite volume, and sometimes oscillations happen when we have a lot of interaction through the bank between the mesh and the river. With finite volume solver, we're going to be solving the same equation throughout the model, and that's going to make the model more stable, and the results will be more accurate. We're also looking at APIs. We want our users to be able to access the databases that are now living in cloud since the introduction of cloud, and grab parameters out of the database, maybe model inputs and maybe simulation results, and generate maybe scatter graphs or maybe line graphs or maybe bar charts, pie charts, using the data from ICM, whether it's a model input or whether it's a simulation result. So these are the areas that we're looking at the moment. Some of them are in the open, some of them are in the experimentation stage, and that's all for ICM. Over to you, Trevor.
Thank you, Samer. For this next section, we'll toss it over to Nathan to talk about our water distribution solutions.
All right, thanks, Trevor. I'll jump into water distribution covering InfoWater Pro and InfoWorks WS Pro. So I'll start with InfoWorks WS Pro, and we have the privilege of getting to share a lot of the same benefit functionality. So several of the features that Samer just showed that are going into ICM will also be going into WS Pro, namely the Ruby scripting will be coming in a future release. We have some example scripts that will be available once that releases, as well as some of the Info360 cloud web view. So you can see and track the progress of your simulations and see and track your simulation quota. Another exciting feature that is really going to be shared between InfoWorks ICM and WS Pro is Project Admin. Before I jump into that, we are excited about this for collaboration. So InfoWorks has a long history in sort of leading the industry with collaboration. You know, well over 10 years ago, we had the workgroup data server allowing users to collaborate in the same model at the same time, and it would sync changes. And that has been somewhat leading for many years, a very mature functionality. And then skip to 3 years ago, around then, we released our cloud databases. And so now you no longer needed to have an IT team to set up servers and manage connectivity between different users and manage upgrades every time you upgrade your software. You can just simply connect to the web, and have a cloud database. And that is huge for collaboration. But we're now taking the next big jump forward, where now in the cloud, you'll be able to manage who has access to different databases and what kind of permissions they have. And so this is going to be something that's decoupled from licensing, and that gives us a lot of opportunities. So we've been hearing some limitations that many customers have had with our cloud, such as our current cloud databases don't currently support easy multi-region from a single customer. You'd have to set up multiple different sets of licenses. There's just a lot of admin things you have to step through, and we didn't have permissions or access management and so on. Also, we released viewer versions of ICM and WS Pro, but those could not access the cloud because licensing was our only way of accessing cloud databases, and viewers don't require a license. So we're introducing a new functionality in a future upcoming release where you'll be able to manage projects. And so a project will be the framework that you can control who has access to that project, what kind of access, and within a project, you can create as many databases as you want. Let's jump into just see a quick preview of what this looks like. This is going to be accessed from your account management location. So here you can create hubs. In the future, you'll be able to create multiple hubs. That was one limitation. As you create a hub, you can select your region. And then from there, you can now enter this new experience where you can go to Hub Admin, where you can create multiple projects. And from a project, you can also add members and control what kind of access that member has. Are they a model editor or are they just a reader? So you can actually control access in that regard. And this will be the framework from how InfoWorks will be able to select databases. So if I just jump ahead to now I'm in WS Pro, you'll be able to see all of your projects in that hub list. And from there, you'll be able to create databases and so on. And so we're bringing all these things together. And what it will allow is new workflows of being able to collaborate, especially across organizations even. Like if you want to share a viewer permission with someone who maybe is within your organization that doesn't have a license to be able to review models. These are all things you'll be able to do, as well as sharing data across projects. So that is coming. I'm very excited about that. And so now I'm going to jump over to some new things that are coming into InfoWater Pro. One of the things that we recently released is map themes that enable a full ArcGIS Pro symbology. One of the things I've found in working with InfoWater Pro modelers is that InfoWater Pro modelers love maps. They love they love bringing all of their Esri data and creating really rich maps where you can articulate what's happening in a model with contextual GIS data. And unfortunately, the functionality since many years ago in InfoWater is that you've been sort of limited in the results and data that you express from your model onto those maps using our tools. For example, you can't easily remember the visibility ranges. If you zoom in and zoom out, you might want to see greater detail as you zoom in. You could only join a single attribute generally onto the map if as you're displaying things. You had limited capabilities to how you apply labels to things, and you couldn't really adjust the symbols by default. And so we've now opened it up. So InfoWater Pro's map themes can now use full symbology. So it's like you have the full art palette, all of the different art supplies that are inside of Esri. You can use them, and InfoWater Pro will remember all of that and keep your map up to date with all of those settings. So the result is that as a modeler, you can now create a library of really rich maps that allow you to really illustrate what's happening in your model. So I'm going to just show a quick preview of some of the map themes that are now available that you can download from our help file. So I'm applying a map just using our tool, and you can see this looks very unlike typical InfoWater Pro models of the past. You can see tanks are actually showing how full they are and I'm using a background color to show is the fill draining or filling. My pipes are varying by velocity, flow rate, and direction. I'm getting advanced annotations that pop up as I zoom in. My valves are showing both the input data type and status, as well as the setting. And you can control some pretty sophisticated labeling with lookup functions and all of that, which will appear as you zoom in and hide as you zoom out. And so that's just a quick preview of some of the things you can do with map themes and ArcGIS Pro symbology. And next is leakage modeling. One of the biggest concerns that's shared across almost any water distribution utility is water loss. It's a huge and unfortunate loss of treated water that municipalities spend effort to treat and then pump and pressurize and then just ultimately lose out to the environment. And the unfortunate reality is that most hydraulic models have a pretty limited ability to really help represent that leakage and help utilities prioritize where and how to do projects that will reduce that leakage. And so what we've done in InfoWater Pro is we've tied leakage now to the actual pipes as assets. So it's not just a new demand, it's not just a pressure dependent demand on junctions that gets lumped together with the rest of your demands. It can actually be leakage that comes out of pipes. And so you can actually really join together the condition of the pipe with the leakage. And so then when you do capital improvement projects where you replace pipes or upsize pipes and things like that, you can then automatically remove that leakage per pipe. And to go along with that, we've now added a tool with leakage allocation. So you can now take an existing model, which was calibrated without leakage, and now you can add leakage into your model pretty seamlessly. So let's just take a look at this feature. So you can click on the leakage allocator. You can control where the leakage will go. Using these easy sliders, you can define your non-revenue water percentage, and then you can define what scenario this leakage is going to go into. And just with that, you click and it will then parameterize and allocate that leakage to that set of data. And so now I'm going to just run this model, and then now you can review scenarios with and without leakage. So now I'm looking at the overall supply for my treatment plant, both with and without leakage. You can see it's pretty much the same. In this case, obviously a little bit different, and I'll show why in just a minute. So we're at the moment just applying leakage to match the average flow. So here you can see during the nighttime when pressure is highest, the leakage is actually higher. And we're doing some further work to make it so that it will match your results exactly by giving you the option to change the patterns. So here's just an example view of our new advanced map themes showing those leakage model results where maybe you want to see, for example, here I can see at every junction the total outflow and then the percent of that flow that is leakage, because some junctions have a lot of demand, some junctions might have had no demand, and then leakage is almost 100% of the outflow at that junction. And with that, let's take a look at what else is coming up in InfoWater Pro and WS Pro. So starting with InfoWater Pro, we have been hearing from a number of customers. Customers have been looking at utility network for many years. Some have been making that transition. We do support you through the GIS Gateway if you want to use utility network, but we are working now to streamline that process. So if you have utility network or you're working toward that as a future state, InfoWater Pro will have an easy button that you can build your model directly from utility network and also keep it up to date from utility network so that your GIS can be a one-to-one single source of truth that your model will stay up to date from. In addition, we're looking into criticality analysis. We've been streamlining the way that you can run criticality analysis focused on the pipes and valves, where we're bringing in valves and customer points actually as an imported layer within the model so that we can maintain a quality schema and give you tools to QA/QC your data and streamline that process to get criticality analysis. So that's something I'm really excited about. We've been working with some customers, and that will be coming in the future. On the InfoWorks WS Pro side, we have been working on automated model building. This will be coming out in a future beta release, where you'll be able to store your data in SQL Server in an open schema that we will help provide you with. And then from WS Pro, there will be a single easy button to basically build your model and keep it up to date. And that button can also be accessed via script, so you can automate it if you want. And this will enable modelers to keep their model up to date. So you're no longer spending your effort manually building and updating a model. You can now just focus your effort on maintaining a pipeline where your model just always stays up to date, and you can just check how well your model is up to date as maybe a separate copy, and then you could just merge those changes to your master copy at any point in time when you're ready to. And then going along with that, we have some further Ruby scripting enhancements. We're adding several different methods to further support project management, just the ways that you can streamline how you work with data. And we're also enabling the iExchange methods to be run from the interface. And this is a huge improvement where you'll be able to, even automate runs and new analyses all just from the interface using that scripting scripts within the database that Samer showed. And this is really exciting because as we've seen advances with AI, large language models, scripting is now becoming a tool that even non-computer science majors can start to leverage, because you can use the help of AI to start to streamline and automate workflows, because it's really good at helping you come up with scripts. So that's a way that we see customers really improving the efficiency of common workflows. So those are a few of the things that are coming, and I'm going to hand it back to Trevor to cover the rest of this webinar.
Thank you, Nathan, and to the rest of the desktop product team for detailing all of the great innovations and features we've rolled out recently and soon to come over the next several months. With that said, a few wrap-up slides to remind everybody watching this about how you can engage with our products and learn about what's new. So I do want to flag, you've likely heard it mentioned, we do have an ideas portal. A lot of our new feature releases come from customer suggestions. And so you can suggest new features for each product here on the ideas portal. Just look up Autodesk Water Infrastructure Ideas Portal, and you should find your way there. And the top voted ones will eventually make their way, or should eventually make their way, into the software. With that said, we also have a huge catalog of learning. We have free desktop training for all of our products that take you through the basics and train you up to get started with the solutions. This is available to you whether you own the software or not, so feel free to check out our learning catalog for our water solutions and get started with some online tutorials provided by our internal team of experts. Additionally, if you'd like to keep up to date with some of our launch content and learn about what's new in the water industry, we have a fantastic OneWater blog and a OneWater newsletter as well. It's not just product releases and marketing material. There is, of course, some of that there, and you can learn about what's new in each release. But we also engage with customers. We talk about interesting water projects around the globe and tell unique stories for the water industry. So do check that out to stay up to date with our portfolio. But if you're in the water industry, it's a great hub to keep up to date with as well. And so with that, that is the end of this presentation. Hopefully you got some value from it. We appreciate you for watching, and please do stay tuned to our roadmap for more releases and updates on our coming portfolio improvements.